I'm the Reverend Kevin Summers, and before we get started today, I just want to thank you all for being here. Most of you didn't know I was going to be here, so we kind of tricked you. But if you're viewing us online, we appreciate you tuning in as well. So what I want to do is I want to start with a commercial that's going to kind of set the tone for today. So let's check this out.
Oh, hey, Mike. What are you up to?
Just diagramming this accident with my State Farm Pocket Agent app. You can also get a quote and pay your premium with this thing.
I thought State Farm didn't have all those apps.
Where'd you hear that?
The internet.
And you believed it?
Yeah. They can't put anything on the internet that isn't true.
Where'd you hear that? The internet.
Oh, look. Here comes my date. I met him on the internet. He's a French model.
Bonjour.
State Farm. More mobile than ever. Get to a better state.
So that commercial just gets funnier to me every single time I watch it. And it makes me want to walk around just saying, bonjour. You know? Because I could totally pull that off. But the reason I think that's my favorite commercial of all time is just because of how gullible that woman is. You know, where'd you hear that? Oh, the internet. They can't put anything true, or that's not true on the internet, and that's totally not true. If you don't know that, it's totally not true. For those of you that do know me, you know that my wife Heather and I, we moved to Roswell actually in last August. And living in Roswell is a treat in its own. You know, it's kind of got this big city feel, but yet it's rural. And the best thing about living in Roswell is when you say, oh, I live in Roswell, New Mexico, people say, oh, have you seen any aliens recently? And I love hearing that. Just the illegal kind, mostly. But I really love that statement today anyway, because that statement's full of misconceptions, right? So what I got here is I've got a picture of the Roswell courthouse, and it's got a Ten Commandments memorial in front of it, and it's got some war memorials in front of it. Nice, quaint little town. That's what Roswell actually looks like. It looks like any normal town. But most people's misconception of Roswell is that it looks like this. And guess where I got that picture? The internet. Right? Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the families of Roswell. This is a typical or possibly atypical family. Good-looking one. Looks fantastic. That's my daughter Addison. She's almost one. So that's the typical Roswellian family, if you will. But most people's misconception of a family from Roswell looks more like this. And sadly, that picture is actually from Roswell. But the fact of the matter is that misconceptions kind of rule our society today. Whether, you know, you get something from the internet. I have students, oh man, I teach high school. I'm more reverend than a reverend, right? I teach high school. And I actually put in my notes, like, I need to pause for tremendous amounts of laughter. He's a teacher, that's reverend. But I teach high school, and I've got students who will see something on Facebook, and it's fact. If it was on Facebook, it's got to be fact. And that's not technically true either. But I want to bring up the fact that I am a high school teacher, because I don't work at a typical high school in Roswell. I don't work at a Franklin High School or a Coronado High School or any of the high schools that you see in movies. I actually work at an alternative high school. That's usually the reaction I get. Because whenever I say I work at an alternative high school, I get these wild misconceptions thrown at me, like, oh, that must be tough. Well, being a teacher at an alternative high school is no tougher than being a teacher at a regular high school, because you still get 30 students that are all individuals, and you have to teach them an insane amount of content in a short period of time. They don't want to be there. And then at the end of that short period of time, they all have to take a test, and they all have to do awesome on that test. They have to be cookie-cutter examples, even though they're individuals, because of the No Child Left Behind Act. But the thing is that the public's misconception about alternative school is that bad kids go there. Bad kids go there. And bad kids don't go there. Yeah, you know, we got some kids that have made some bad decisions. But who hasn't made bad decisions? I thought at one time it was okay for me to wear a Hawaiian shirt every single day. That's a bad decision, right? So our students, they're not bad kids. They're just, you know, they made a few dumb choices. That's all. they're not bad, but it's the public's misconception about bad. So since we're in church, I thought, you know what, let me give you guys some biblical misconceptions. So I'm going to start with 3 of them, actually, and angels is where we're going to start first. So whenever I think of angels, that's what I think. They're just cute and cuddly, right? Just, ah. Do you guys agree that's what angels are? Probably not. So how about this? I got a better picture. What about this picture? Are we getting better? Some of you are laughing, so I guess not. Oh, okay. I found that picture on the internet as well. It has to be true. So, no. How about this? This might be a better example. It says they're angels. Hell's angels all in. It's a little bit of a joke, actually, but the reason I use this is because, in my opinion, I think we're actually kind of getting closer to what a real angel is. So, my view of what an angel is. Right there. Scary, right? Yeah. This picture has it all, man. They got guns, check, right? Tattoos, check. Knives, check. Badass black wings, check. Motorcycles. Okay, so it doesn't have everything, but it almost has everything. So you might ask why this is my envisionment of an angel. You might ask why. Oh, okay. I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked. In order to answer that question, we have to ask another question. What are angels? Are they these cute, cuddly little kids? Or are these bad-looking dudes here, right? So what are angels? Angels are warriors. That's what they are. In his book, Epic, John Eldredge says it this way. He says, why is it in nearly every record of angelic visitations, their first words to us mortals are, fear not, be not afraid. These are not Raphael's angels, the one you see on Valentine's, cherubic little children with golden wings looking no more dangerous than the rosy-cheeked members of the local preschool. Real angels are mighty, glorious, dreadful beings, more powerful than you can imagine. That makes sense to me. That makes sense to me, right? But with all due respect to Mr. Eldredge, I just don't think he quite did it justice here. So I'm actually going to change it. I'm going to say angels are warriors. Angels are ass kickers. I just said ass kickers in church. I'm sorry. Right? There's no better word. I tried. I wrestled with this for a long time. I've been talking to Pastor Dave about this sermon for a long time. And I just said, Dave, I can't come up with a better word than ass kicker. Because that's what these guys are. 10-foot just wreckers of people. Right? And I want to prove it to you. Okay, I want to prove it to you. So let's take a look at 2 Chronicles real quick. 2 Chronicles 32:21. And an angel of the Lord sent... and the Lord sent an angel who destroyed every mighty warrior, commander, and officer in the camp of the king of Assyria. So when we read this, it says an angel, right? That's what I emphasize there, is an angel. We're talking about one, not 50 angels, not 100 angels, not an army of angels. One angel came in and destroyed this entire camp. So the next question someone might ask, well, how big is the camp of the king of Assyria? It could be 4 people. Well, okay, true. The book of Isaiah tells us that the camp of the king of Assyria was 185,000. One dude taking care of all of them. These are trained warriors, and one angel comes along and destroys them all. Ass kicker, right? And I know people might be like, he just said that in the sanctuary. Just a building. Just a building. Let's look at another quantifiable example here. Revelation 9:14 through 15. Release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. And the 4 angels who had been prepared for the hour and day and month and year were released so that they would kill 1/3 of mankind. Now, this is kind of a little bit of an ominous example because it's talking about killing mankind, and we are part of mankind, right? But according to the internet, so it's got to be true, there's approximately 6.9 billion people on Earth. And of that 6.9 billion people, it's believed that about 2.2 billion are Christians. So let's look at a little bit of math here. If we have 6.9 billion people as an estimated world population and 2.2 billion people as an estimated Christian population, if we subtract the Christians from the world population, when these angels are released, if it were to happen today, I'm not saying that it is. Do not misunderstand me. I'm not saying, hey guys, this is happening today, go get prepared. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying if it were to happen today, each angel would be responsible for nearly 2 billion people. Right? 1.175 billion people is what each angel would be responsible for terminating. These guys are bad dudes. They're capable of a lot of destruction. Would you guys agree with that? Yes. Okay, thank you. All right. So, I want to kind of qualify this for you. I want to make it more relevant to you. So, here's what I'm going to do. I want to challenge you guys to, I want you guys to kill, every single one of you, I want every single one of you to kill 1.175 billion ants, starting today. Now, a lot of people will be like, oh, well, that's easy. We could do that. 1.175 billion ants. I could kill that many ants. So, well, let's look at the math. Let's look at the math with it. Let's be ambitious and say that you could kill 1,000 ants a day. So 1.175 billion ants divided by 1,000. It's going to take you 1,175,000 days to do that. And if we take into account leap year by throwing in that 0.25 and divided by 365.25 days, it's going to take you 3,216 years to kill 1.175 billion ants if you kill 1,000 ants a day. Piece of cake. Piece of cake for angels, for sure. Right? All right. So, you know, even though we don't know the time frame when these angels are going to be doing stuff like this, we do know that that's a lot of people or a lot of anything to kill. You agree? So let's try something a little bit different. Let's try something that a lot of people are more familiar with. The burning bush, right? This is out of a Charlton Heston movie. That is definitely not a burning bush. Right? That is a glowing bush at best. But if somebody walked up to this, they could say, oh, lightning struck it. Not a big deal. Right? Not a burning bush. But maybe it's not supposed to be burning. So I want to actually look at the biblical reference for this. So let's take a look at this. Exodus 3:2. The angel of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing fire from the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, yet the bush was not consumed. So the first thing I want to point out is blazing fire. That is not a blazing fire. That's kind of glowing. So I think Charlton Heston kind of missed it, and shame on him. But another thing I want to point out is it says here, the angel of the Lord. When the definite article "the" is used, most of the time we're referring to God himself and not an actual angel. Which kind of stinks because that would really prove my point that angels are awesome. But that's okay. So this is supposed to be a burning bush, and yet when I watch this movie, I'm like, oh, that's pretty lackluster. It's not really a burning bush. So I want to show you something else. Check this out. Freaking bush, right? Not glowing. Nobody's going to walk up on this and be like, well, maybe lightning struck it. No, when Moses saw this, he was like, huh? And then it starts talking to him. He's going to say, I think I'll listen, right? But growing up, that wasn't what I thought. My misconception growing up when I went to Sunday school and I learned about Moses and the burning bush is that is this tiny little bush that's on fire, kind of like that Charlton Heston picture, right? I think that thing was on fire, man. I think it was massive. It was something that caused Moses to go, whoa, okay, I'll listen. Yeah, I'll listen. So what's the point so far? The point is that angels are really not these cute, fluffy little things with harps and bows maybe, and these beautiful little halos. Angels are ass kickers, and the burning bush was on fire. That's the point that I'm trying to make so far, right? Up to this point, we've taken two misconceptions, at least misconceptions that I've had, and I've kind of laid it straight a little bit, using some biblical evidence. So the point is that there's probably a lot of misconceptions that we have about the Bible, and myself included. I mean, I'm just scratching the tip of the iceberg here. But I think what we really need to do in order to get rid of some of these misconceptions is to take the Bible and read it literally. And obviously we can take some points with a grain of salt, but This is what I mean. As a science teacher, one of my students asked me if I believe the Bible. And I didn't think twice about it. Before I could even think about it, it fell out of my mouth. I just said, yeah, absolutely. And so that question was immediately followed with the next question. Well, do you believe that the earth and everything in it was created in 6 days? And my answer, to put it nicely, my answer sucked to that question. Because I think I said something like, oh, well, maybe, it just depends on how long a day is to God, and it just depends on what we're actually talking about in terms of a time frame. And that was just some useless rhetoric that I had heard at one point. Now I know, after reading it and getting this kind of clearer mind frame, now I know that I should have said, yes, 6 days. It all happened. Because that's what the Bible says, literally, 6 days. Okay? If it wasn't 6 literal 24-hour periods of time, then what God did isn't impressive. Does that make sense? If the earth came together and all of the organisms in the earth came to be in millions and millions of years, that's not that impressive. But if it happened in 6 days, that's impressive. So, and if we don't believe that God did all of this in 6 days, then, why would we believe anything else that we see in the Bible? That's how the book starts. In 6 days, this is what happened. Obviously it's not in that exact verbiage, but that's how the book starts. And then why would we believe that, Noah built an ark? Why would we believe that Moses saw a burning bush or parted the Red Sea? Why would we believe that Jesus is who he says he is? Why would we believe that Jesus even existed if we don't believe the first chapter? Right? So, I think that God, in any form, whether in spirit or in a flesh form, in the form of Jesus, is an ass kicker. Built this in 6 days, everything in it in 6 days. And on the back of this cut, at the bottom, Exodus 15, it says, the Lord is a warrior. The Lord is his name. He's a butt kicker, man. Mighty and powerful and more majesty than we could ever give him credit for. There's a lot of misconceptions that we need to correct. Yeah, we know that angels are butt kickers now. Ass kickers. Butt kickers doesn't do it good enough. Ass kickers. The burning bush was really on fire. Not just kind of on fire, like it was on fire. But I think, in my opinion, the greatest misconception that we as believers have to correct is what it takes to be a Christian. What it takes to be a follower of Christ. John 3:16, everyone's familiar with it. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. And he continues in 17 and 18. For God did not send the Son into the world to judge the world, but that the world might be saved through him. He who believes in him is not judged. He who does not believe in him has been judged already, because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. That's kind of a powerful statement anyway. But what makes it even more powerful to me is that Jesus said this. It's not one of Jesus' buddies. Not just some dude sitting at a temple and thought, hey, you know what? That's a good idea. Jesus said this. He literally said it. It came out of his mouth, and he meant it. It wasn't this feel-good notion to make everybody feel good about who Jesus is. In fact, he was saying it to the Pharisees. He said, this is who I am. It's the truth with a gigantic ass-kicking capital T on the end, right? He wasn't just kind of like, yeah, that's who I am. He said, this is me. Jesus didn't say this. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. And then you can see this disclaimer. I need to get closer to see it. Assuming that he has been baptized, but not just sprinkled, fully dunked, and held under water in the presence of several witnesses, and that he's asked God for his forgiveness and continually asked for forgiveness, despite acknowledging that Jesus was the propitiation or total payment, and that no further payment or forgiveness is necessary. Moreover, said believer should also go to church every Sunday without fail, and applicable Wednesdays. You got to get that church credit. While in said church, believer must give 10% of his earnings to God because God totally needs your money. No hats allowed. I missed that one. In addition, believers should never drink alcoholic beverage, swear, cheat, steal, lie. Occasional fibs are allowed, but no full-fledged lies will be granted. The possession and or operation of a motorcycle will be deemed as a blasphemous act. Nor should motorcycles ever be present in the sanctuary. Tattoos are prohibited. I missed that one too. Other restrictions apply, only valid for certain individuals. Does not apply for the entire world despite what's written. No purchase necessary, excepting the aforementioned 10%. Price does not include tax, title, and license. See God for detail. Void where prohibited. Participating locations only. Some assembly required. This information is subject to change without notice. All rights reserved. Yeah. Jesus didn't say that, right? We saw what he said. He said, believe in me. So if I were to cling to my prior misconceptions, my previous misconceptions, this disclaimer version would be true for me. And I think all too often we live our lives in the fine print, the misconceptions. For instance, I recently heard from a friend that I should be dying daily for Christ, which it's a perfectly good way of thinking, don't get me wrong. But in doing so, if I died daily for Christ, wouldn't I be voiding Christ's contract for me? Didn't Christ die for me so that I didn't have to? And this might be where some people might be sitting out there and go, man, this guy is just off his rocker. He's cussing in the sanctuary, he's wearing a hat, he's got tattoos, he owns a motorcycle, drinking a Coke. This guy is off his rocker. But just hear me out for a second. Jesus didn't have fine print. He didn't have this disclaimer. He didn't say, believe in me and you'll have eternal life, but, and whisper to somebody else. He didn't say that, right? He puts it all out there for you, right? He just says, believe in me, and ends it. Believe in me. No fine print, no disclaimer, no misconceptions about it. And Christ doesn't ask us to die for him. He doesn't ask me to give him a certain percentage of my paycheck. He doesn't really ask me to do anything beside believe in him. That's what that passage said. And that was Jesus himself talking. So in my opinion, what does Christ want for me? He wants a relationship with me. And I've heard it a million times. Jesus wants to be in a relationship with you. Every church I've ever walked in through the doors of, Jesus wants to be in a relationship with you. Sometimes it's, Jesus also wants these, but he also wants to be in a relationship with you. But Jesus wants to be in a relationship with you. So what does that mean? How do I have a relationship with Jesus? And so this is my opinion. It doesn't mean that I have to go to church every Sunday and applicable Wednesdays. It doesn't mean that I have to get a certain amount of church credit, if you will. I don't have to go to Chick-fil-A because since they're closed on Sunday, that's like going to church, right? I don't have to do that stuff. It doesn't mean that I have to do X, Y, and Z, whatever X, Y, and Z is. So how can I have a relationship with God? I can have a relationship with my wife. I can have a relationship with my family. I can have a relationship with my friends. But how do I have a relationship with God? I set out to discover what that means. I decided I'm going to do some research. So I found out that the English word for relationship is actually a Latin word. And does anyone speak Latin? Relatio is the word then. Relatio is the word for relationship. And in Latin, relatio means to lay a matter before Senate. Perhaps to make it even simpler, relatio means a narration. So I put up here 5 definitions for relatio. Laying a matter before Senate, telling Senate, hey, this is what I think. Giving a narration, a relating of events, a recital, giving an oath to God. And I've defined oath as a solemn, usually formal calling upon God to witness to the truth of what one says. So a while back, Pastor Dave asked me a question. And the question was, why do you pray? And he wasn't being facetious. He wasn't making fun of prayer. He was asking me a question. Why do I pray? And so I thought real hard about it for a minute. I was quiet that whole time, which is hard for me to do. I looked around the room like I was really thinking hard. And I responded this poignant conversation. This is what I said to him. I don't know. And then I said, I feel like God, who is all-knowing and all-powerful, already knows what I have to say to him. And I want you to think about that. Think about any relationship you're either part of or were a part of. Think of any relationship. And what does it take to be in a relationship with somebody? If today's the first day you've seen me, are we in a relationship? I don't think so. I don't know you from Adam. I know you want to be in a relationship with me, but I don't know you. I'm that funny. I'm that cool. Right? So what does it take to make a relationship? It takes communication, right? Narration. I got to get to know you, and you got to get to know me. I need to know who you are before I can be in a relationship with you. It just can't take place without us talking, without conversation. With regard to the word relatio, I'm particularly fond with the fifth definition there, giving an oath in reply, and knowing that the definition of oath is to call upon God to say, this is true. This is true. Calling upon God to witness the truth of what one says. The reason I like this definition is the same reason I like my best friend. I can tell my best friend anything. But it's more than that. It's more than just I can tell her anything. I can tell her anything and everything, and it's without judgment. Right? No questions are asked. So if the idea is that we're trying to build a relationship with God by talking to him through prayer, do you really think that God needs to hear from you? I can't think that he does. I think anything that you're about to say to God, he's going to say, dude, I already know. Like, let's save some time. Let's hit the gym. Dude, I already know. Jump in the car, let's go to work. Dude, I already know. Go to sleep. Rest well. God already knows what's in my mind, and he already knows what's in my heart. So me physically speaking those words to him, he doesn't need to hear them. He wants to hear them. He wants to build a relationship with you. Not because he needs to know what you did today. He wants you to talk to him about what you did today. How was your day at work today, dude? Let's hear it. What's making you mad? What are you pissed about? What are you happy about? Let me hear it. He doesn't want to be your judger, saying, no, that was bad. You shouldn't have done that. He just wants to say, oh, yeah, I understand why you're mad about that. He just wants to be your witness. He wants to be your friend. So I continued to do my research, right? I'm trying to find out, what does relationship with God mean? So I continued to do some research, and I decided, you know what? This needs to be thorough. It needs to be objective. It needs to be quantitative investigation. So what I did is I Googled the secrets to a good relationship. And I don't think that I'm the only one that thinks this way. I don't think that I'm the only one that thinks, you know what, you need to talk to God, not because he needs to hear it, but because he wants to hear it. Because I read some articles. I read articles from marriage counselors. I read articles from psychologists. I read articles from 17 magazine, which are the first 3 Google results. So I did some thorough research. But of everything that I read, all of those articles that I read, I found the same 3 things over and over again. Sometimes they were word for word, verbatim the same. Sometimes a little bit different version, a little bit different verbiage, but same message. And so here it is, the 3 secrets to a good relationship, whether it's with your significant other or with your Creator. Love, trust, communication. I already have God's love. I know that he loves me. He showed me that he loves me. He's proved that. We just went through Easter. We know what that's about. We know God's love. We've seen that. I love God. That's why I'm up here talking to you. I told Pastor Dave, I said, you're never going to ask me to talk again, man, after I say what I have to say. But I love God so much, I want you to know that. I want you to hear what I have to say because I think it means something. So I already have God's love. I already trust God. I believe that Jesus is who he says he is. When he says, believe in me, and you won't perish, you won't be judged, believe in me. I believe that. So what do I need to do to build a relationship with God if I've already got love and trust? I need to talk with him. Not because he needs to hear what I have to say. He knows what I have to say. I need him to hear what I have to say. He doesn't need it, I need it. I need to vent. I need to emotionally decompress. God has forgiven me of my sins when he died on the cross. So I don't need to say, oh, God, I need you to forgive me of this and 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 that and probably that. I'm not really sure if that's a sin, but probably that too. God, I need you to forgive me of this and this and this and this and this. I don't have the time to do that. Literally, if I sat down and I talked to God about forgiving me of all of my sins and I start rattling them off, I don't have time. I won't be able to get anything done until I die. But it doesn't matter because he already knows it. He's already heard it. He already knows what I'm going to say. So he's already forgiven me of that. That's not the issue. The issue is that I need to really unload on him. God, this is why I'm mad. Or God, this is why I'm happy. Or God, this is how my day was. Pretty uneventful. It was awesome. Thank you for that. I need to unload on God through communication in order to build a relationship with him. And what that does is that helps me unwind. It helps me build a relationship with God. But the best thing, and I'm just going to kind of leave you on a cliff edge, the best thing about doing that is that I get rid of the misconceptions. I get rid of the fine print between God and me. I throw it out there, not because he needs it, but because I need it. I don't talk to my best friend, my wife, because she needs to hear what I did today. She doesn't need to hear that I had an awful day or I had an awesome day. She wants to hear that I had an awesome day or an awful day. I need it, not her. Think about it.